Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala nabiyil ummi. So, alhamdulillah, so far in this book we have covered, in the beginning, he spoke about the over reliance on a person's own endeavors and the negative impact of that. So when a person falters in their good deeds, he starts thinking, oh no, religion is too hard, I won't be able to achieve it because I sinned or I made a mistake. That means the Lord doesn't like me, or I'll never make it to the Lord's pleasure and happiness and his standards and goals because I made a sin. And when a person over relies on their actions, they start separating themselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by their own judgments. And you can see the problem with that, where a person says, oh, I don't think the Lord will be able to forgive me in this situation. So never be a judge between you and the Lord. Let the Lord judge you. And even if our actions are falling short, we don't have to call ourselves someone who failed. We continue working hard. That was the beginning of the book. And then right now then he talked about dua, how just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays in accepting the outcome of your dua, it doesn't mean he hasn't heard your dua. So generally we feel like, oh, my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the rocks because he hasn't accepted my duas. And we suddenly, that's a second reason why we get distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we think, oh, my duas are taking a while. He's not happy with me, looks like. So that's a second faltering of the spiritual journey, where a person starts thinking, my duas are not getting accepted outwardly, so it means maybe Allah doesn't like me. So that's again a second problematic thing. We're supposed to make our duas and then leave it. As long as you have this contentment of heart that Allah will accept it, then leave it. Now, because you have to trust your Lord, and that's why even in our relationships, if somebody doesn't trust us, we get very disturbed. For example, if your spouse tells you, oh, would you be able to take care of me? Can you buy me food? You're like, what are you talking about? Would you buy me clothes? You're like, what? Why are you even asking? Like, do you doubt what I'm going to do for you? We almost feel triggered. Somebody gives you a dawat to your house, and you say, oh, is there going to be food there? You're like, duh, it's a dawat, it's my house. You're always going to get food if you come to my house. So look at how two humans who are outwardly equals, but because one took this act of kindness and said, oh, come to my house, come to a party, come to a dawat. Because he's such on a high pedestal, now for the other person to assume that, oh, he might not give me food is disrespectful already. Like, oh, what do you mean? You're coming to my house, you're asking if there's going to be food there? You think I'm going to call you to an empty house? Look at how triggered we get, naraz, like, what are you doing? It's my house. Obviously, I'm going to give you food and water and a place to sit and get comfortable. Now imagine you're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord who gave you existence from no existence. Lam yakun shay'an mathkura. Allah makes it very clear, like, oh human, you were non-existent. Forget about your food and your du'as and your needs. Because sometimes we ask for food or a job or whatever, stability and so on. But those are secondaries. Number one, the tasawwuf books talk about is existence. All the blessings that are dependent, like our lives, we experience the blessings, they are secondary. The primary one is existence. You were able to pray salat, that's because you exist. You are mu'min, you're a believer because you exist, so you believe. If you weren't existent, you wouldn't have a chance to believe. If you weren't a human, like you weren't created. So that's why the tasawwuf books and the tazkiyah books actually go out of their way to clarify that. So let's keep that in mind. So anyways, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And now if a dua gets delayed, does that mean He doesn't like you? No, it's not like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us, and He gives us that contentment of heart that this is some basic need of mine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of it. And now we are, then the third thing that we studied was the importance of isolation and being alone to focus on your spiritual journey. And now the fourth topic is, now that you are spending time by yourself and on yourself, Now focus on your behavior. Is your behavior conducive to the path of purification? So he says, how can you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you are still fully engulfed in dunya? Your heart is a mirror reflecting the world. Your focus is materialism and popularity and so on, or sins, or the passions of the nafs. So he talks about that. So he talks about shahawat, passions, desires, and distractions. So inshallah we'll go more into distractions today. And it's a really interesting discussion. So we're just going to finish off with this one. He says, أَمْ كَيْفَ يَرْجُو أَنْ يَفْهَمَ دَقَائِقَ الْأَسْرَارِ وَهُوَ لَمْ يَتُبْ عَنْ هَفَوَاتِهِ. How does a human expect to understand the secrets of life when he hasn't even done tawbah from his mistakes? Meaning, like, you made a sin, or you haven't even said sorry to Allah. And now you're thinking, do I understand the beauty of the secret of the secret of existence, the beauty of our relationship with Allah? He's like, do tawbah at least. You made mistakes, do tawbah, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can open secrets on your heart. And now he hints towards a hadith where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said everything that's distracting is far and is cursed from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anything that brings you closer to the Lord is blessed. But whatever takes you away from the Lord, it can't be blessed. So ad-dunya kulluha mal'una, like the world, the materialistic part of the world, that's all cursed. Because it pulled you by its nature to itself. And that's why last time we talked about job and work and earning money. If your intention is good, it's all deen. But as soon as the intention becomes worldly, that is the nature of a cursed thing, that it's worldly by its nature. That's why we say marketplaces are the worst places in the world, and the masajid are the best. Why are markets the worst places in the world? Because the intentions are so negative. Otherwise, based on the logic that we gave last week, if your intention is very clean while you're earning money, then being in the malls is not a bad thing. You're selling stuff. A guy is selling watches. So he's just selling watches, he has good intentions, and he's hoping that he makes money so he can take care of his family, and taking care of your family is charity, is farus. So the only time the other people that are buying the watches, if they have worldly intentions, they are cursed, not the guy that's selling you with a religious intention. So the same item that one person is selling is religion for him, but the person grabbing it and buying it, that's dunya for him, because of the intentions. There's a hadith that mentions a tajir, a businessman, he'll be resurrected with the prophets and the martyrs and the shuhada. And you would think, what? He's a businessman. He just made money. Why is he being given so much honor? We only mention the prophets. Like at the highest level, how is a businessman able to reach that level? And the hadith mentions if he told the truth, he didn't cheat, and he was truthful in his business, and he was trustworthy, he'll be resurrected with the prophets. And where do you do business? In the malls. So now he gets to that idea that things are cursed unless they bring you closer to the Lord. So he mentions al-kawnu kulluhu dhulmatun. The existence by its nature is dark. وَإِنَّمَا أَنَارَهُ ظُهُورُ الْحَقِّ فِيهِ. And the only reason why we sense the light is because of the Lord bringing these things and blessing them. فَمَنْ رَأَى الْكَوْنَ وَلَمْ يَشْهَدْهُ فِيهِ أَوْ عِنْدَهُ أَوْ قَبْلَهُ وَبَعْدَهُ فَقَدْ أَعْوَزَهُ وُجُودُ الْأَنْوَارِ. So whoever sees the world, but he doesn't see the Lord's doings in the world, before the events, after the events, during the events and the things, then basically existence has taken him away from the Lord who brought it to existence. So basically he's being covered from the sun. وَحُجِبَتْ عَنْهُ شُمُوسُ الْمَعَارِفِ. So he's basically being covered from the suns of recognition due to the clouds. So I hope it's quite clear that the worldly If the world is a distraction for you and it takes you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that will be a dark world. And if it brings you closer, then it's your ability to see the Lord's doings. And now this is where it gets really tricky. He mentions if you have destroyed your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through sins and through negligence, bifikri, then now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not happy with you, so the world is becoming a distraction, even though the world could have been a reminder. For example, you see something of the dunya, but it could have reminded you of akhirah. For example, you went to a lake, beautiful water. That could have been an ultimate reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But somehow you're sitting at the beach, you're not even thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. So basically that is your curse. You're looking at the creation, but you cannot even imagine the creator for a second. So he says, مما يدلك على وجود قهره سبحانه أن حجبك عنه بما ليس بموجود معه. So he says, part of the indication that the Lord is unhappy with someone is that he has distanced him from him by the use of the world that never existed without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually making it exist. So some of the wording was very tricky. He said by the Lord using the world to separate meaning distance the person from him by the world, although the world only came to exist through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now he breaks that sentence down in 4 or 5 different ways with almost similar wording, so you're going to have to pay attention. So he says, كَيْفَ يُتَسَوَّرُ أَنْ يَحْجُبَهُ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَظْهَرَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. So now he explains why is the world a distraction? Although it shouldn't have been. So he gives the reasons why the world should not be a distraction, but the fact that a person doesn't have the right attitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's why it's becoming a distraction. So look at the reasons why it should not be a distraction, the world and all that's in it. So he mentions, how can something be a distraction for you when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that made it appear in front of you? وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَظْهَرَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. The Lord is the one that made these things appear. For example, the oceans, the lakes, the humans, dunya, passions, food, drink, the need to love, the need to be loved, all those things, how are they becoming a distraction for you when He's the one that made them appear? The second one, how can these things be a veil for you when He is the one? He's the هُوَ الَّذِي ظَهَرَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. When the Lord becomes more apparent through everything. So for example, the Lord created 1,000,000 things. Those 1,000,000 things are a reminder that the Lord made them, right? So that's 1,000,000 reasons to remember Him now. And then same thing again, وَهُوَ الَّذِي ظَهَرَ فِي كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. He becomes apparent in everything. So through Him, with Him, and in Him are things becoming present in the first place. So now we'll go into a slight detail. For example, you see life, you see a child being born. So now the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that gives life, Al-Muhyi, that should be a reminder that, oh, I should remember the Lord because He just gave life right in front of me. If someone dies, you remember death, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that causes death. If somebody's blessed and he has all dunya, you should think of the name Al-Karim, the one who bestows. Al-Mu'ti. But if you see a rich person, but it distracts you completely from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you should have not been distracted, because whatever that person has is because of Allah's givings. So that should have been reminders, not distractions. If somebody's dua is being accepted and he's blessed through religion, Al-Mujib, the Lord accepted his dua. So you should have seen that in that So basically, he's hinting towards a very deep idea, which is try to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the 99 names. For example, someone is sick, you went to the hospital, or you found out your teacher is sick, or whatever, your employee is sick, your colleague is sick. So now you remember that yes, the Lord is the one that challenges people in their health. And if somebody is healthy now, they're cured. So now you remember, yes, the Lord is the one that gives the cure. So as the works of the Lord become present and they appear, you think of that quality. For example, whoever ate food before they came here. So now you have partaken of food. So now the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that hints towards giving food to people, that will be the name that should be ringing in your head. So Ar-Razaq or Ar-Raziq. Talha, did you eat something before you came?
No.
When did you last time eat?
Lunch.
Lunch, what did you eat?
Lunch at school cafeteria, Thai chicken,
Right.
Thai beef and
Okay.
rice.
Cool.
Jamaican patty.
What did you do when you came home? What did you eat?
I didn't even eat
Were you fasting or something in the middle of the day? Have something, bro. Are you on a diet? You're so skinny. Eat something. Everybody's self-aware. Like everybody thinks you're fat. Nobody's fat, man. Eat your food. Enjoy your food. Isn't everybody for no reason like so self-aware? I think we live in a very materialistic world. Everybody has to be like a tip-top bodybuilder, otherwise, like this dude. Everybody has to be a tip-top bodybuilder, otherwise he's not good enough. Not good, eh? Now I'm self-aware. I'm hiding my stomach too, like this, behind a big fat table. Yes.
Also same here.
Pardon me. You're self-aware
That's
too.
why I'm wearing a giant shirt.
Yeah, because you're so self-aware. Although you're not even. You're basically a very average person. Let me share something with you that I learned today about health. They said what you think is unhealthy for another person, that will be the ultimate health if they can reach that stage in their life. So let's just say you're 20 pounds overweight, and another person is 100 pounds overweight. So for him to reach that stage where he's only 20 pounds overweight, that'll be his ultimate goal in life. Isn't it? Because he wishes he can lose the 80 pounds that are extra and just have 20 pounds only. So how you look at yourself will make you more positive about your life. Like, oh, alhamdulillah, I'm not 100 pounds overweight. Maybe 5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds, maybe whatever pounds. But you get the point. So once you switch your mind, you'll be more happy with your health, and then you actually do more for your health because you feel so confident about it. So I learned that today on some health channel, so you can use that strategy. Okay, Talha? Be like, yo, I'm such a good shape, let me go work out more. And let me go for a jog. Does that make sense? Talha is so shocked, like, why is he talking to me? Awkward. That's what he's thinking in his head. Anyways, so that is, so how can something be a veil for you when the Lord is apparent through everything? And the other thing he mentions is كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الذي ظهر لكل شيء. And if you see anybody worshipping, then you should remember Allah right away, because now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appeared to that person. That's why the person is so infatuated in his worship. For example, you see somebody crying in his du'as. Why is that person crying? Because he can feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the connection that a person feels. So that's another reminder to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, you come to a masjid with 500 people sitting there. Should those 500 people be a distraction or more focus? So you should tell yourself, look at these 500 people, they had the tawfiq to leave their homes, make wudus and dress cleanly and come to the masjid. Why? Because of their trust and their reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their recognition. The main thing is recognition, because they recognize Allah as a Lord. So now those 500 people in the masjid, every single one of them is a reminder to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on Jummah, this is the best way to go into a spiritual high. You come to the masjid, and based on the cars outside the masjid, You can tell which profession the person is doing probably. So what kind of cars do you see outside? Anybody, random profession cars?
Bismillah pizza.
Bismillah Pizza, thank you. Anything else?
Plumbers.
Plumbers, thank you. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, pizza delivery guys, construction people, post, the mail people, all these kind of different cars. But you realize, wait, all these people were coming from like hundreds of different professions. But every single one of them recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somebody is a school teacher, somebody is a mechanic, all these people, they're all coming. A pizza, a bread maker, every single, and then you see kids, young kids like Talha coming from school, and you're thinking, wait, so this kid in school recognizes Allah, this person in this place, every single one of them recognizes the Lord, and that's why they come to the Jummah prayer. So you can go into a very spiritually high state. You see an old person who can barely walk, and he still made it to the masjid for Jummah Salat. So you're thinking this guy in his old age where he has so many health issues, but he's still remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you can recognize the Lord through those who recognize the Lord. And now, few other angles of recognition is, how could you be veiled from the Lord when He is the one who was present before the presence of anything else, before the existence of anything else? So whatever distracts us in Salat time, the Lord existed before that thing that you're thinking about in Salat. The next one, how can you be distracted with something when the Lord is more apparent than everything? So whatever exists, the Lord is more obvious than that. For example, the lake exists. But the Lord made it exist. So that one lake cannot be a distraction for you because He made millions of lakes exist. The girl that drives you crazy, Allah made millions of those girls exist. And He was present before they were created, before they were born. So, كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو الواحد الذي ليس معه شيء? And how can you be veiled from the Lord when He is the only one and nothing is with Him? Meaning at the level of the Lord, there's nothing that comes close. So a Lord that is so unique, how can you be veiled from Him? كيف يتصور أن يحجبه شيء وهو أقرب إليك من كل شيء? And then he mentions, how can you be veiled from the Lord when He is the closest to you? Closer than anything else, the Lord is closer to you. For example, when we have those very deep thoughts and we're thinking within ourselves, the Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more closer to you than your own jugular vein. So the vein that's close into your chest and heart, the Lord is closer than that. So when we have those inside, like deep thoughts in our minds, the Lord can hear every one of those thoughts. So how can you forget a Lord that is closer to you than yourself? So now that He made us think about all these things, so now He is trying to say that all these things should not be a distraction for you, but a reminder of the Lord. So whether it's your needs, your wants, your desires, or the world out there that is the creation of the Lord, all those things should be a reminder of the Lord. And honestly speaking, even the desires that we have can be a reason to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. For example, you see food and you have this crazy desire to eat it. Or you have sexual desires, or whatever materialistic desires, or need that you need to have a place, a home, a comfort. All those desires were created in a human, and if you study the human mind, there's hormones, there's different types of adrenaline, and all these different hormones that go through us, and then we have need for something, and we want to go achieve it. So all that again is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever something distracts us, talk to yourself and be like, wow, this distraction is so powerful. Who made it so powerful? Who made that distraction so powerful? And then again, your mind will go from that extreme distraction to a reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I remember reading in one book of Tazkiyah, it mentions when you're trying to do dhikr of Allah and you're completely distracted. Completely distracted. Tell yourself, subhanallah, so many thoughts, and all those thoughts just show you how many things can distract you. So that will be another reason to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more actually. And if you feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a lesson because you've been so distracted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now you're not even able to focus on Him because your mind is so distracted, then maybe Allah is punishing you through it. Maybe the Lord is punishing you by giving you so many thoughts because you were trying your best to be distracted from the Lord. So if 10 things are on your mind, say subhanallah, 10 different distractions. That's how many distractions the Lord has created. And that way hopefully we can do istighfar and try to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes?
Is that the same thing as waswasa?
Yeah. You can use waswasa and be like, subhanallah, look how powerful this waswasa is. But again, don't act according to the dictate of the waswasa. Like the hadith mentions, sometimes when a believer is making wudu, then shaitan will put a waswasa in his mind that your wudu is not done properly. So you can use that again as a sign that the Lord created whatever He created, and that causes the waswasa, whether it's shaitan, whether it's our own nafs. I think generally there's even a shaitan mentioned. Walhan, I think there's a specific shaitan that only comes at the time of wudu just to make you feel like your wudu is not done. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to focus on the Lord despite of the number of distractions. Otherwise, right now in today's world, literally every profession you focus on, you think about, you find out the students are struggling in that field because of some distraction. You go to a dental college or university, and you look at their prep time and study time. You come to the hall, everybody has their textbooks in front of them and they're becoming dentists, but everybody has a phone in their hand, they're all distracted. Right? You go to a med school, same thing, everybody's sitting there on their phones and all distracted by silly social media apps where they should be studying something serious. So that's why the ability to focus is becoming very rare. Sheikh Mahmoud Chandia, he's a professor in UK, very religious one, and he was saying if you can master your use of technology, you'll be successful, because the success of this zamana, the success of these times, is the ability to use technology properly. And if you can master it, I swear this is the best time to be productive, because our lives are so much easier than the past. Our cooking is more easier, our dishwashing is easier, our movement, our traveling is so easy, washing our clothes has become so easy. If you live in a building, getting up and down, it's so easy. So now our lives are becoming so easy, so whatever we focus on should be achieved at the highest level, not at the lowest level, because we have so much technology. I was just standing and talking to two students of Deen outside of Central Mosque, and I was thinking, we were thinking together and talking, and we're saying that sometimes the books will mention that Fulan Sheikh, when he wrote this book, in the footnote he mentions, and I tried to get a copy of that specific book, but that book is unavailable, it was never published. There's one rare handwritten copy of this book in certain university, but I was never able to achieve it or retain it. But nowadays, people went and got PDFs of those manuscripts, and they're online available. So a great saint or sheikh that was writing a serious book, he'll write in the footnote, that's not available to me. But a random kid sitting in Scarborough can pick up a phone and look for that PDF and have it available to him in 10 seconds. And that sheikh would have to travel 6 months by camel just to see a copy of that book, and he'll need the Khalifa's permission to get to that museum or that book library. But today times a random kid with a phone can find that PDF. So you see how easier it has become. So we should, inshallah, try our best to use technology to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and use it to be less distracted. Now we're going to get to the Aqidah part. Whoever describes Allah even with a single human quality has blasphemed So basically, the author spoke about the Quran and the Quran not being the words of humans, but the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Quran not being a creation of Allah, but part of the Creator. So now he gets into a general discussion about the Lord, and he says we will never describe the Lord in the exact way that we describe a human. So anybody who describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a humanistic trait and says they're basically the exact same trait, sometimes the wording will be the same, but the implication will be different. But if somebody says, no, the implication is also the same, then that would be kufr. So whoever understands this will take heed and refrain from such statements as those of disbelievers, and knows that Allah, the Exalted, in His attributes is utterly unlike human beings. So for example, the hadith will mention, if a person does tawbah and comes back to the Lord is very happy with them. So now the word happy is used. So are you going to say happy means smiling with your teeth showing? Like you're going to say, no, for humans that's what it means. But for the Lord, it can mean whatever that it means for the Lord. Now he mentions the vision in Jannah. So in the past there was one group that appeared in the Muslim community. They would deny seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. So they said, no, that's not possible because the Lord is so different, we should never be able to see Him. But the Quran and the Hadith are clear, you'll be able to see your Lord. So they said logically it's hard to make sense of. So the author says, yeah, logically it might be hard to make sense of right now. But if the Quran and the Hadith both mention you'll see your Lord, then why are you trying to imagine it in the worldly sense? The Akhirat is so different, so the Lord will make it happen. You don't have to be able to visually be able to make sense of it and logically make sense of it. So they call it the beatific vision. The beatific vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the inhabitants of the paradise, without their vision being encompassing and without a modality of this vision is true. So we'll be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the people reach Jannah, but it won't be an encompassing vision. Because one ayat in the Quran mentions, وَهُوَ يُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ, He encompasses the visions, but the vision doesn't encompass Him. He encompasses whatever people see, but the visions cannot encompass Him. So he's hinting to that you'll be able to see the Lord, but not with encompassing Him fully.
What does that mean, encompassing?
Like fully 100%. So just like how looking at even a human, you don't see the person. When you see the person, you see one side of the person. So he's saying to understand the Lord fully, like the Lord is so great, you'll be able to just understand the Lord according to your human capacity, not the full capacity. It's like how even children, they never understand the complication in the adults' lives around them, or their parents or their grandparents, what goes through their grandparents' heads. All that a kid thinks about is what goes through his head. So when it comes to humans, there's so much contrast. Imagine between humans and the Lord Himself. And then he mentions in Surah Qiyamah, it mentions وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. So he mentions that the verse is clear. What it means, we'll leave that to the Lord, and how He wants to make that happen, how we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Day of Judgment, that'll be according to whatever He wants it. But the ayat is very clear. So he mentions the explanation of this verse is as Allah knows it to be and as He intended. All that have been narrated about this issue from the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his companions, may Allah be pleased with them all, is in authentic hadiths, is just as He said, and they mean as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended. And the last one, we do not delve into such verses, hadiths, trying to interpret them in accordance to our own opinions, nor do we let our imaginations fold them into their presumptions. So he mentions that anything that is speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we're not able to fully encompass it and understand it, then we leave it to whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended by it. And this is very clearly the conclusion of an ayat in the beginning of Surah Al-Imran, right after Surah Baqarah, right at the beginning, somewhere in the first 10-15 verses, it talks about is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the Quran. There's two types of verses, the clear verses and mutashabih verses. So the clear verses, they're straightforward. You accept them and you believe them and you practice them. For example, pray salat. So that is straightforward, and there's no need to say we don't know what it means. No, the meaning is very clear. You pray salat, and but then there's one place where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told the believers to spend, and when the Jewish people of that time heard that the believers are being told to spend, so they said, "Oh, it looks like the Lord is having a financially restricted time. It looks like He's not spending. The Lord has shortage in cash, so He's asking us to spend." So the Quran responded to that terrible saying that the Lord, His hands are free in spending. The Lord's hands are free in spending. He's always spending on creation. So the words used there is the Lord's hands. So are we going to go deep into that? We say, no, we don't know what it means. It just says the Lord's hands are free in spending. And He's always taking care of His creation. So you leave it there and you say, oh, the ayat, whatever it means, the outward meaning is quite clear. The Lord is always taking care of His servants. He's blessing them all the time. So that's clear. But what the word hands means, we don't know what it means. So we'll leave it. And that's why the Quran mentions in Surah Al-Imran, the same place, it mentions those who have corrupt hearts. They go deep into those ayats. Those who have zaygh, like crookedness in their heart, they will ask you more questions about it. So those people who keep asking you, where's Allah? So that question is so complicated, leave it. It's a very delicate question. You can say there's two ways to answer that. You can I guess you can say three ways to answer. Once you'll be like, oh, it's a complicated question and I'll leave it to the way it was intended. Or the other way you would be, the Lord is with me. Like He's always with us with His knowledge. And others say, no, He's on the throne. So they just get too specific about it. And you say, no, the Quran says both. The Quran says both. He's with you. And He has power over the throne. So let's not get deep into it. Like that's why Imam Malik, when he was asked, so he thought about it and he said, no, we know what the Lord, we talk about the Lord, but asking that detailed question is the bid'ah itself. وَالسُّؤَالُ عَنْهَا bid'ah. And asking about the details of it is the bid'ah in the question itself. So that's why we don't go deep into unnecessary, silly questions like that. So those ayat that are clear, we take their meaning, whatever isn't intended. And if the ayat is unclear on what it means, then we just leave it to whatever the Lord meant. And the Quran is telling us, do not go deep into it. May Allah give us something to understand. Jazakumullah khairah. Jazakallah for coming and blessing us with your time. If anybody has questions, comments, wants to chat, please go ahead.
I had a quick question about something you said earlier
Sure.
about waswasa during wudu
Yes.
and how you might get waswasa about how it's not complete. So like sometimes what happens is I'll be doing wudu but I'll realize I wasn't paying attention to my wudu
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yes.
So I can't tell myself, like while I'm doing wudu, I won't be able to tell myself, oh, I definitely, rinse my nose 3 times.
Yeah.
Or I definitely did kulli 3 times.
Yes.
At that point I restart. So is that waswasa or is that my own?
No, that would be a waswasa. Basically, let me honestly tell you, because as believers, as Muslims, we made wudu so many times, by now it's automatic. So even if your brain is completely distracted, don't worry about it. You're probably done properly.
Okay, so there's no, it's not a requirement for us to be, it's okay if it's like on autopilot?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And in fact, the examples you gave of the mouth and the nose, they're not even compulsory. The only 4 actions are compulsory. The face washing, the arm washing, the head wiping, and the feet washing. So face, head, arms, and feet. The basic one-time wash. Not even the 3 washes. The one-time wash is faras. Everything else falls into less faras. Less. So sunnats and nafils, they become. So very rarely would you miss out. Yeah, the only time the nose washing becomes more serious is when you need a faras shower. That's when the mouth and the nose become compulsory. And by the way, if you forget to wash your mouth or clean your nose during a shower, it doesn't mean you repeat the shower. So once you dry it up and you put your clothes on, now you remember the way I didn't wash my mouth and nose, you just go wash your mouth and nose. You don't have to redo the shower. The shower is done. You just have to fix the parts that are missing. So for example, you had a bandage on that you forgot to take off, or a piece of tape or paint or whatever. So when your shower is done, you just take off that part. You don't have to redo the shower. Just wash the area that maybe never got washed. Okay.
So I had another quick question. So there was a gentleman who asked me a question. I had no, like I didn't know how to answer it. So I told him I'd ask you for it. And he asked me why is interest haram? Like why is it? Like is there like an objective,
Good.
practical answer to that, or?
Yeah, I think it's very straightforward. I'll give two answers, one on a macro level, one on a micro level. On a micro level, you're taking advantage of someone's need. Because normally, interest is based on something, some transaction, or some money that's being transacted, right? So the person is only asking for that money, especially in a loan, because he needs the money. So abusing somebody's need, that is the ultimate evil. So for example, that's where, like, unfortunately, prostitution comes in. A woman is in need of money, but the person, rather than giving her money, says, I'll use your body first, and then give you the money. So you see how disgusting that is? That's why riba is such a bad thing, because a person says, I need money. You're like, oh, then I'm gonna milk you, I'm gonna take lots of money from you, because you need money. So you need 100, I'll give you 100, but I want 200 from you. The fact that you're asking for more, it's so wrong, because the person is in need already, and you're doubling his needs. So that's why on a micro level, that's why it's so bad. On a macro level, look at our system, our financial system is always down because of these things. Right now, what were they saying recently? They said the world, all the money in the world is a certain number, like 138 trillion or something, but right now we have 300 trillion of debt in the world. Meaning we have more debt than all the cash in the world. How is that possible? That's what I heard like yesterday. We have more debt than all the money in the world. How is that even possible? Because we're putting, like, we're so like crazy,
I don't want to go into that debate, but the person who's lending the money, what's the benefit of that person if he doesn't take the interest? Or how do you compensate that person?
Good question. The point is that everybody makes more money when people are stable. Right now, the interest system is based on you making money off of the need of people. Islam encourages, make people stable, they will start spending money. And when money starts moving, you'll benefit. That's where the stimulus check comes in. Why is it called a stimulus check? Because it stimulates the economy. You give a person some money in a bad time, what is he going to do? He's going to go out, buy clothes, buy shopping, and go to vacation. So instantly, everybody got that money. He doesn't even keep that money. Within a month, the stimulus check is gone. But it stimulates the economy. So today's banking system is like almost keeping people poor for longer. But Islamically, you're encouraged to give loans so the economy can start moving. And that's why there was a guy, I think was it in Bangladesh or in India, where he won a Nobel Prize because
he's from Bangladesh.
him. He was so famous, like became world famous.
Muhammad Yunus.
What did he say?
He basically started a system like a bank, but he gave micro loans, and he did not take any interest, and he mentioned that you only have to give me what I give you.
Okay.
And generally, when you study the financial system, the banking world, for every dollar that is loaned out, very small amount ever comes back. So everybody's defaulting.
Yeah.
And everybody's claiming bankruptcy every now and then.
Yeah.
So I think it's like for every dollar, only 8 cents or 10 cents or 15 cents comes back. The rest is always like a game.
Yeah.
So, but this guy had 100% success rate in his loans, which is unheard of in the banking world. And this guy proved that if you take the Islamic approach, you give $1 million, you take back $1 million. But he was giving small loans, so small businessmen, small canteens, buying cows and little things. And everybody's life flourished because he gave them a certain amount and said, give me that amount back.
Basically, he's creating
circulation of the money.
Circulation of wealth. That's what the Quran mentions. Do not let money become a wheel of success amongst the rich. So right now in our banking system, only few people become richer.
Yeah, so that's a stat. They say it's like right now, 50% of the wealth is owned by 25 people.
Yeah.
50% of the wealth of the.
Yes.
I was curious. What's permissible in like when in social interactions,
Good question,
like
man.
young people?
That's an amazing question. Let me quickly finish here. So basically, on a micro and macro level, you want to make richness an easier task. So people can become richer. That's what zakat is. Zakat is you give people money that are slightly poor. Why? Because as soon as they become stable, they're going to start working. And as soon as they start working, they're going to have money to spend on themselves and others. So you give zakat so that person can hopefully give zakat next year. That's how the Islamic system is. The point, basically the Western system, it preys off of unstable people. Islam is the complete opposite. It wants people to completely get out of the unstable part of their life and quickly become stable and start making money, start profiting, and help the economy. But the West only benefits when everything is down. And
But in the Middle East, do they have a model of Islamic banking?
for sure, I don't know too much about it, but there is obviously then there. But unfortunately, many of them just start copying the Western system. Otherwise, Islamically, it's very bad to do that. So there should be other ways of benefiting. And Islamically, there is ways to make money. What you do is you become a partner in the money that you lend out. For example, Walmart goes to the credit union, says, I want 50 million. So what the credit union should do is give the 50 million, but rather than giving it as a loan and asking them for interest, ask them for their profits. So you'll say, we are becoming business partners, so out of the 50 million, 45 million is yours, 5 million is ours. But we're investing it with you. So now, as they start making money, you don't take interest from them, you just take the profits from them a little bit, 5% or 20% of the profit you take. So that way nobody loses and everybody wins. But in a business strategy, the loaner always loses and the creditor always wins. Or the person giving the money, they always win.
I have one little
Sure.
thing regarding that,
Yeah.
because when he asked me that question, he was saying some people might take interest to mitigate like the say I offer you like a 10-year loan, right?
Yeah.
But if I give you $10 right now,
The
10 years down
inflation.
the line, it's not the same $10.
Yeah, so that's
So is
it.
that permissible? Like just to adjust for inflation, because you will eventually be probably giving me back a little bit more money
Yeah.
numerically,
Yeah.
but it's still the same amount.
Yeah, so I can look into that. And what is the academic answer to that, the Islamic answer to that? Yeah, but generally speaking, that was the general discussion that we had about short-term loans. Can you turn that off and I'll answer Talha's question? So yeah, basically,